Hey, hey, do you hear me?
That was good, bro.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect, perfect. What's good, man? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year too, brother. It's been a while, man. Last time I've seen you, I think it was Outbreak
Oh yeah, shit, it was,
in
isn't it?
in person.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think August, something like that.
yeah. The
Yes,
social
yes.
media age, bro. Feels like it's everyone. Feels like you see people for like earlier, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's been like 6 months, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been like around a lot last year, but this year will change a little. But yeah, it's been definitely Outbreak.
Let me see. This is sick. All right. Yeah, same with me. Well,
Oh yeah,
I'll break a few others. Let's see what happens this year, and it
you haven't
getting
been to BC
started.
One?
What's that?
You haven't been to BC One? You've been to BC One, right?
Yeah, I was in New York,
I was in
luckily.
pre-stat session though.
Yeah, I was gonna come, but that was too expensive. But I stayed in New York.
That's what's up. Yeah, that's cool. All
All
right,
right,
man.
all right. See some people. Let's see who's in, who stays. But yeah, let's chat, man, about this
Yes.
commentating nonsense.
Yeah, it's been a
Full,
pleasure.
wait, full disclosure first. You know me. No matter what, I'm still like, yo, talking during the rounds. I'm just like, I don't. For me, that's a no-no. But we'll go over later why I'm like it does. I've got a logic to it. It's not, you know me. It's not just like I don't want to hear you talk. You
I
know.
know, I know. I know. It makes
But
sense to me
but
too.
but
But
first, tell me about the BC One commentator training and what that is and how it is.
yeah, so for BC1, I had the pleasure and got asked in 2019 for the first time to commentate the Indian edition, which took place in India, right? So I
Yeah.
did the first time there, and of course I was a little bit nervous, and I was just asked to be the expert on breaking because I was co-commentating alongside Redchild from Germany, from Hamburg. You know, he already
Okay.
hosted the international one in
Yeah.
2020. So the next year, 2020, I was doing it on my own because they asked me how I want to do it, if I want to try something else, and I said, "Look, let me try to do it on my own." So I had like more freedom how to structureize my commentary. The next year, I did it
Yeah.
again alone, and then the fourth time. So last year, I suggested Red Bull how they want. Like I just asked them how they want to have it their live stream to be commented. It will be like informational or educational or just entertainment factor. And so I suggested a few names, and they decided to go with a guy who happens to be my crewmate, and who is a sports scientist. So they wanted to have like this kind of exchange and the insights of the sports scientist as well, who is of course then also for the b-boy. And so the last year I was also an expert. We were both an expert role. So I had like this three kind of roles where I was like solo commentating
Yeah.
solo. I was doing the expert on the first edition, and now the last edition was like the expert with another expert. So yeah, and it's been it's been quite fun to do it alone as well because I could prepare. You know, I prepared. I wrote down some words that I wanted to use for the German audience. For everybody watching, I was doing it for the German audience, of course, which means Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. Parts of Netherlands, but they of course watch the English because the English is just freaking good. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I could prepare myself way better with what kind of words I wanted to use, how I wanted to explain the different kind of aspects of the dance. But yeah, I had the opportunity through Red Bull. Very thankful, and it was great to be in all those three different kind of positions so far.
And did they give you any type of training or direction from the first time you did it, like or each
Um,
time?
I think I got asked to do the commentary as well because like I never hosted a competition or something else before. I
Yeah.
mean, I've thrown my own events, but I think they asked me because I actually already worked for Battle of the Year for a trailer, and they know that I do voice work. So they
Uh-huh.
maybe put one on one together and thought like, okay, this guy is already like is skilled on the side of the in front of the microphone and how to use language and how to use words, and maybe you know they probably watch my vlogs too, so they know that I'm able to talk into camera and to talk into in front of people or two people, and I think that's why they hooked me up. And there was no further preparation. They just how you say briefed us for who is the competitors, what's going to happen. But you know, I get a sheet that I should be or words I shouldn't be saying or something like that, which will be just bad for the competition itself. But yeah, that was the only briefing I had. So they just flew us out to Salzburg, Austria, and Richard and me, we just kicked it off from the spot.
Fresh, fresh, fresh. So yeah, because that's what I was wondering. I was like, I've heard, some people say before that, that they've been asked to talk a bit more, a bit less. Do you know what I mean? During the actual like live stream,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, but obviously this was, there's different Red Bulls in different places,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was wondering if, yeah, if they do say, yo, we need you to talk more or talk when you want to talk, talk how you want to.
Well, we have, of course, we have some specific cues. Like we get a run sheet, like before the show,
Okay,
or
yeah.
like 2 days before the show, we get a huge run sheet because at BC1 at least, it's so calculated until the last
Yeah.
second. So of course you check it out, but then you just go with the flow because us as breakers, we already know that what happens next. We just get the cue before when we know there's like a small video coming that we shouldn't speak over that or we should speak. But we were kind of free as for the German audience or like the German speakers, we were kind of free because I think we never overdid talk and we never hold ourselves back, I would say.
But do you hear because they got you in the room, because you obviously you weren't there,
Yeah, yeah.
which I think is something that should change if they want people to commentate, but that's different. But
Of
that's
course, yeah.
whatever.
Of course, yeah. That's something later.
Yeah, but can you, when you're commentating, are you plugged into the full sound? Like, do you hear the host in the crowd, or is it?
Yeah. So yes and no, because they asked us if we at least want to hear like the original commentators that were on the spot. So I think last year was Kid David and Ronnie, right,
Yeah,
commentating in English, and they asked us if we want to hear it so we can like kind of take them as an example when to commentate. Well, we just said we don't want to do it because I already did it 3 times before that.
yeah,
And that I already checked before we started the competition the volume, how it is for us. So we could hear a little bit the crowd, we could hear the music, of course, and we could hear the host, but like a very slightly difference because they were like mastering it for us, how it was
yeah.
for us comfortable.
And then do you get? Because the hard thing I think as well is because of the way commentating's set up. Basically, do you get any feedback from them, from the audience, from someone who's like, "Yeah, I heard you commentating. It
Oh
felt
yeah.
like this, it felt like that," or did Red Bull give you a feedback at the end?
No, Red Bull didn't, unfortunately. I mean, Kevin liked it, who is the guy who is responsible for me. He liked it and he enjoyed it, and I think that's why they asked me every year since
Mm-hmm.
2019. But there was been people hitting me up because I asked them. I always shared the link to where to watch it and stuff. So people hooked me out and said that they already compared it from other live streams, how I was doing it, and how they appreciated it. But let's be honest, I think most breakers watch the BC1 like probably without commentary. So yeah, because sometimes I just only watch it on YouTube, and I'm not even sure if there is commentary at all. And when there is commentary, it's in English. And
Yeah, I
you know,
think you
but
can do. I think you might be. I'm not sure. I know when it's on live YouTube, there's commentary because you can go on and the live stream is still uploaded on YouTube, so you can still watch the full event and it's still got the commentating on with
yeah,
Kid
but I think
David.
it's
And,
yeah, I think it's just the English version. And then when you
yeah,
went
just
to
the
the
English.
Red Bull page, you could choose between I think 7 languages. So there was a lot of
Okay.
people involved for the commentary as well. I think it's at
Yeah,
least then 14 people right in front of the mic.
yeah, yeah. See, that's good. I think it's good they do the languages thing, but yeah, now like yeah, something else I wanted to ask. Did you get the commentator's handbook?
Yeah, I got it, and of course, I got it before the Last Chance Cipher.
Yeah,
And I think I missed some information of the people who went through, this year. But there was just last year, 2022. But that was just an issue for last year. But we get the commentators handbook like 2 or 3 days before, with of course the invited people, and there's a lot of information in there. You know what's in there? Probably a little bit shortened than what you know about
yeah.
the people. But yeah. But since commentating, since it's a knockout system, it's very hard to dissect what you want to mention because
Mm.
like the next round, this Bieber already or like this speaker is already out, so you don't have to mention anything about her or him. So it's very interesting. But yeah, we get a handbook and we try to implement that every information that we have.
That's I mean, so yeah, and most of that stuff I wrote, or the other writer Tracy probably wrote. Like the stuff for the Last Chance Cipher, I was up till late writing that stuff up because it was supposed to obviously be given over.
Yeah.
So as soon as it was over, we interviewed all the people that got through. We got all their basic details, where they're from, how long they've been breaking, if they've done the Last Chance Cipher before, blah 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 blah, and
Mm-hmm.
then typed all that up. I was in New York, like in my freaking hotel room, typing it up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. People don't even know to send that to the editor, and he was also helping on his side because he was in Austria. So then that stuff could get given. So yeah, probably like somewhere in between didn't come through.
Yeah, so
But
yeah, it's a lot of people that are between the commentators and then you think
and
the last
different
event, right?
countries and all this, yeah. But see, that's something that I think is the important thing to talk about. Like you said, it's a knockout system. But
Yeah,
then if Breaking's gonna do commentating, the biggest question is like, what is it for? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what is this? What are these people sitting here commentating for? To tell you what, to give you what information? Because in the end, in reality, I should have looked it up actually. I keep meaning to look this up. As far as commentating probably goes back to radio, right? Where
yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have no one to see. So you're commentating because no one can see. So the commentator's telling you the action.
yeah,
Then you get TV and you keep the commentators, but it's not going to be the same because radio was like you can't see it. And then you get breaking, and then you go, okay, you look at other sports and you say the main thing that you can say about those other sports is any other sport in the world is it's a play-by-play, and it can be entertaining. But the main thing, firstly, is a play-by-play, right? They can say, like, watching basketball, so and so shoots a free. Watching football, so and so, he's going around the defense, he shoots his shot. They can tell you all this.
yeah,
But in breaking, I think that's completely nullified because it's the only thing, especially in Olympics, that's completely freestyle. You don't know. They don't do like gymnastics. They don't give your routine in first. So gymnastics, the
yeah.
commentators know the routine the person's going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and the moves are scored. So you're talking about the move and the scoring. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
It's not like football or basketball because this is a head-to-head game where two people are trying to beat each other, or boxing. You know what I mean? Because again, there's not so much going on. In
Yeah.
breaking, you got someone coming out doing, who knows, you don't know what top rock steps are going to do. You don't know what footwork, you don't know what power, you don't know what freezes, you don't know what transitions. So you can't call a play-by-play in time.
Yeah.
That'd be like watching someone and go, oh, she's doing a 6-step, 7-step, here's a baby
Yeah, yeah,
freeze.
yeah, yeah. Stop that
90,
already,
2000, hold on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's
So
not even
then,
necessary, because then you just talk over the music. So it's very hard. That's why it's so hard to do in a way, because you want to figure out, because us as b-boys, mainly the people who commentate, except now for the WDSF stuff, there's this one guy, Tom, who lives off from commentary. Actually, every week he commentates some other sport. That's what I learned about this guy, who was
okay.
commentating last year with Ronnie, I think, the WDSF.
So
And Ronnie
wait,
told
but
me.
he's a b-boy or he's a commentator?
Ronnie was commentating alongside this guy called Tom from the
No,
WDSF,
but,
and he's just from the Olympic channel, a guy who
okay.
commentates. Ronnie told me like just every sport, so he
Okay,
even got
okay.
better. I rewatched him and he got better with it because he was commentating last year with someone
Yeah.
who was not a specialist. But yeah, let's go back to that topic. Yeah, that's just what makes it very, very, very hard to do, and also like to ask yourself who is the audience. That's why I asked last year Red Bull, do you want to have it like educational or like entertainment? And they were just like, they found it so attractive that I had a guy who was a sports scientist, because he was bringing so much comparisons to other sports. And that was so interesting for the people who might have seen this. But for b-boys at the same time, it's like, no, I know what he's going to do. I know that this is the elbow twist or elbow air track or whatever you call it. And I think the role of a breaking commentator for me, the best things to explain it is like, you're just a diehard fan of this dance. You know your stuff, but you have to give your props where it belongs to. Like, be honest and don't over explain. And yeah, that is just a very, very hard thing to do, because as you said, we should be commentating that, oh, that's a 6-step or that's a elbow track, and then you have to have the
But you
knowledge of.
can. I think you can. But
Yeah,
I think the problem is, like I said, it's not that you can't, it's that you don't know it's coming. So you're saying it after the fact. So imagine watching boxing and
yeah,
someone throws a hook and knocks a person out. And when they hit the floor, you go, that was a great hook. He knocked him out. And,
mm.
it's like, they're like, yeah, we know he's on the floor. Like, when you watch those things, they're like, oh my God, what a hook. Will he get up? They'll say, will he get up? They won't go, oh my God, he's knocked. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't keep up with the pace of it. It's a logic thing. It's like you can't keep up with the pace of what's happening because breaking moves too fast. Like,
Of course,
it's
yeah.
go, 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 go. If breaking was like gymnastics, where you knew the routine was coming, and if you
Hmm.
watch gymnastics, like if you watch it, especially you'll see it, they don't commentate every move, but they
Yeah.
say the move when it's happening. Oh, that was a triple twist into this, and they stuck the landing. Now let's see what they're gonna do next. You can
Hmm.
say that. So
Yeah.
imagine in an imaginary world, we knew what these two B girls were gonna do. They gave you a routine. We know. You'd be watching and you'd be like, "Oh, that was a great 90. They really stuck it. Hit the knee drop. Now they're going into their footwork. Let's see what they're gonna do." This is how
Hmm.
you'd commentate it, but it's impossible with breaking because it's just freestyle and go. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I
Hmm.
think the thing with the commentating is like when you say what's it for, I think then you say like if you had a list of what commentating's for, you got play by play,
Hmm.
you've got entertainment, like
Hmm.
someone's like, and then you've got like you say educational,
Yeah.
knowledge, what it's about, blah 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 blah. So if you have those lists, and those are the I'd say the three main things.
Of course. Yeah.
The education, who this dancer is, where they're from, what this dance is about, what's going on, blah blah blah. Entertainment. Oh my God, I can't believe what they just did. Oh, look at, what I mean,
Yeah.
how many times did he spin? And then the play by play. But we throw out. You have to say, okay, play by play's gone. This is
It
this
is.
is. If someone manages to do this, they're clairvoyant. It's impossible. It's like this isn't. Breaking don't work like that. And maybe in 20 years it'll be that. You never know. But right now it doesn't. So
or
then you say,
or
okay,
or would it send out the live stream with a huge delay where you could see the round beforehand and then replay it with recording? That will be possible because then you know already what's coming. But that's like so
it'd
much
still
extra
be,
work,
yeah.
you know?
It could, but you'd be out of breath after the first
Yeah,
quarterfinal,
probably.
you know. So we've got
Probably.
entertainment and we've got education,
Yeah.
which is what you go. Okay, this is what commentating. This is what we can do.
Hmm.
So, and then I look at that and I'm like, and again, like we're not here to, like we said, not talk about people commentating. But when I watch most commentating, I hear a lot of the same stuff. They say something like, "Oh, nice execution," or "They're really going for it." Oh, that. Oh, they're really coming out with fire. Oh, I wonder who's gonna start. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like
Hmm.
not because I don't think people look at the fact that you can't play by play. So now
Yeah.
they're forced to be in this middle ground where they're trying to call action, but they can't call the action because it's too fast. So they have to kind of just talk about the action. Great execution, but in reality, as someone who writes and does, is about words and language. Great execution, you could take that out, and I could put that on any sport in the world. Great
Yeah.
execution, great. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
do anything for breaking. Even saying really slick footwork, I'm like, yeah, but
Hmm.
I could say that in football, in basketball,
True.
you know what I mean? Because football, so it doesn't do anything for breaking. Whereas I can't take UFC commentating
Yeah.
and put that on breaking because
That's
it
true.
doesn't work. They're talking about hooks, jabs. You can't do that with any of, you can't take football commentating and put it on basketball. It just doesn't work. So then it's like talking about, okay, so we need to develop a real language that gives entertainment about breaking as opposed to just kind of saying what's happening, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. So the one thing I was doing when I was doing it twice on my own, like so
Yeah.
2020 and 2021, because I got feedback from 2020 and people were like as you said, I was repeating kind of stuff or even like the wrong, like some misspelled word or whatever. I was just whatever, merged it together. And so then 2021, I took the time to because you kind of wanted to explain to the audience what is a footwork, what is a power move. So you want to go to this list, but I didn't wanted to do it right before the battle started. So I was trying
Yeah.
to, when I mentioned the word, I was explaining it at that moment, and then later I was just using for it. So you have to really tune in at the beginning of the event to understand why I was using this kind of vocabulary at that specific moment. I was very German. I was very structured when it came to this. I was like, okay, when I use the word footwork, yeah, I will just try to explain it right from the beginning when I used it the first time, and now I would just use it from there on continuously without explaining it furthermore. So I wouldn't talk too much into the round, and just don't be an annoying voice in front of or when the dancing is happening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, an entertaining part. I mean, like there's some vocabularies that you can't just put out there because yeah, as you said, footwork is also possible in basketball. We have to keep the slang up. I mean, you can use different kind of patterns like threats. I always explain threats, what these things are, or orthodox styles or whatever. But yeah, what would be your suggestion to do like an entertainment vocabulary or
Because I think number one, I would go with the UFC formula. If you watch UFC, when the event starts, they tell you about the fights. They don't tell you before. So when the event starts, they say like UFC had scored like this, blah 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 blah. It just goes over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of putting the emphasis on you as commentators, which is really hard because you're, like I said, in real time,
Yeah.
and you might say footwork, but if the audience are most the public, let's put breakers to the side. Breakers know what they're doing. Commentating ain't for them because they can enjoy breaking regardless. It's
I know.
for people that don't know it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So if I'm an average person watching breaking, say I'm watching Rebel BC1, Alvin comes out, and you're like, footwork. But while you're saying it, he does some crazy 90 spin, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what was the footwork? Because for me, it was too fast. I couldn't see at that moment what you was talking about because he's moving too fast. So I'm like, was footwork the thing when he jumped over? Was it the cartwheel? What were you calling footwork? But I think it's a lot easier if at the beginning they have like a quick 5-minute video that just breaks down breaking. This is top rock, this is footwork, this is freezes. This is what you'll see tonight. So when breakers come out, they usually start here, blah, 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 blah. Power moves are more dynamic. Footwork is you know what I mean? You could do that in even a 2-minute video. That way you commentators don't have to do it. It's just a quick video. And this is what, like, a lot of sports have done this. You see it. You can go online and see a lot of sports do this to get it out the way. Now the people know the language. Here we go. Once you've tuned in, just enjoy the show. Then you guys can concentrate on the things that aren't in there. So like you said, threading. But I would say it because you know the breakers. When the breakers come into the to battle, that's when I would say it. That's when I'd
Yeah,
be
of
like,
course.
this breaker
Yeah.
is known for threading. Threading, you'll see he's gonna grab his foot a lot and do intricate moves with his legs. This is called threading. Enjoy. See if you can know, and then you kind of put the emphasis on the audience. You go, enjoy it and see if you can notice the
Of
threads.
course, because that
And
helps you
then
also with not talking over the music, you know? So
exactly.
because you explain it. No, that's how we did it because you have to understand when we start, like it is really like this. We're going to be live and they say like they're on your ear, we have this headphones
Yeah.
on and they say like, yo, we're going to be live in 30 seconds. This is your cue, 10 seconds. And then from there on, depending on which microphone or system you're using, you're live the whole thing. Like you just have to push a button sometimes to be like active, like your microphone is turned on.
Yeah.
But your live, I mean, we have a little delay, I think, so we see it a few seconds before everyone else out there in the world, I believe, but not that much that would make a big difference. But yeah, so we're like our mic is sharp the whole time, and so of course we have not just the. That's what I'm mentioning this because from the all the extra videos they play at BC1 till really like the last shot on the picture, you could potentially hear our voice.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we're not just using our voice when there's the two breakers going at each other, but of course, when they run onto the stage, and we try to
And
bring,
those,
of
yeah.
course, the information that we have through the commentaries handbook, but also explaining styles. Because let's say when there was like let's say Robin versus Alvin. Of course, I will use footwork more for Robin's style when he comes in, and then Alvin with like the dynamic power move style. Of course, this it is possible, but depending on how the competition is already like built up and how structured it is. As far as Rebel BC1 is very structured, we know what kind of time we have. For a WDSF event, Ronnie told me it was kind of exhausting because he had to commentate for like 6 hours straight or something. So yeah, I think
But
we have
even
to
that,
find a formula.
yeah, because that's what I think the formula work because you got the time of them coming to the battle and
Yeah.
leaving the battle, and even BC1 at least has replays, so you
Yeah, of
can
course.
talk to on the replay. And like you say, the good thing is it's like it is a knockout tournament, which means that person's going on to the next round. Which means if you get Palmo on the stage and he's doing his intricate footwork and stuff, and he's doing threads, you can reiterate when it comes out. This is Palmer again. Remember, we told you he's a big threader. If you didn't catch it the first time, you've got a second time to catch it. And
Yeah.
then, but with the person that gets knocked out, it's a perfect opportunity to say, yo, if you like their style, look them up online. Here's their Instagram. You can find them here. Go online. You can look them up. They're on YouTube. And then you can direct people to go and look them up to see them a bit more. Because like I said, in reality, breaking moves so fast, I do think they're putting too much on the commentator to try and get all this information in this because it's just not possible. It's like what's a breaking battle is like breakers go out and we do what 30 seconds. In reality, we do when you watch breaking rounds, even people who do long rounds, I go that round was so long, it's probably 45 seconds. It's no longer than that. So a breaking battle in essence is 2 minutes if you're doing 2 rounds each, right?
Yeah.
You're doing 3 rounds each in 3 minutes. What other sport do you know where the actual competition is that short?
Or
Like
even on
that
one day.
short
Or even on one
between
day.
2 people as well.
Of course, yeah.
Gymnastics is 1 person on the floor. So that floor routine, and they take their time. Boxing is 12 rounds. UFC is 3 to 5 rounds. You know, MMA, football's 90 minutes. Basketball's, I think, 45 minutes. Can't remember now.
I
Watch
mean,
it for you.
we had round robin in WDSF.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the actual round itself.
Mm.
I'm talking about if you get round robin and you get Mad Max versus Pauline, when Mad Max comes out, you've got 30 seconds, bro, to talk about Mad Max. Then she goes back. Then Pauline, do you know what I mean? At
Oh,
that
okay.
moment in time of you talking, you have 30 seconds before Mad Max is going to be done.
Yeah, yeah,
So
true.
overall, you got 2 minutes to talk about Mad Max and Pauline.
Mm-hmm.
No other sport that I know of, you have such a short time to talk about the athletes. You have, it's a set, okay, 100 meters. It's a sprint,
Yeah.
but it's a sprint. We
Yeah,
don't need
yeah,
to
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the athletes. We're just seeing them run. We're talking about sports where people are being artistic, dynamic, and competing against each other. And no
Yeah.
other sport is like 30 seconds done. It's over. It's over.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I
But
mean?
then you can't talk just over the music. That's the main
And
thing
that's
what makes
and
it so
that's
hard, you
why
know?
and that's why I say they should have it that you talk when they come out
That's
and
what
you
we do.
talk over the replay.
That's what we do. I
During
wish.
the actual round, forget about it. Let it go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what we try to do. But that's what we do actually. That's how I did it the last 4 years almost. But then you see the thing that you mentioned that we could mention their Instagram or whatever, regardless if the competition or it's allowed in the commentary, I wouldn't understand why. But then I use the time later because let's talk about Free Rock versus Shigekis, right?
Yeah.
I had like 15 seconds because I was thrown away. I was really like cheering up for Free Rock. I was kind of happy. I thought like it was incredible what he did there, and it was so hard for me to kind of because I thought about the audience at the same time to explain it to them. So most of the time I use the result or whatever happened to talk to my partner like last time what happened there and why this guy or this girl could have won this battle. So I never was really focusing on kind of promoting the dancer who just
No,
lost.
we
I was
don't.
just
I'm not saying you don't have to promote them. I'm just giving that as an example.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so the time is really the guy walks in, the girl walks in. We talk about him, her briefly on their style as well, and then the
Mhm.
round happens. And then of course through the round you don't want to mention, you don't want to talk a lot because there is
Yeah.
this music factor that
Yeah.
it has to be important even on commentary. We just can't. And then of course I don't try to make it like a nice 90. If it's not really standing out, I'm not trying to mention it, except it was like an exceptional, crazy Albion 90 to whatever freeze. Because I'm a fan, and I will give him props like verbally, and then I think I have to explain it
Yeah.
later on. Um, but yeah, that's what makes it very important, and that's why I believe we still have to find a perfect way or like the perfect formula for the
Yeah.
competition to be. Because if you had like more time, you sent me this at Silverback,
Yeah.
these guys had enough time to talk about the battle before and
Yes.
afterhand. But in BC1, it's unfortunately not possible because they're really, really strict. And in WDSF, I haven't done this one, but I think it's also like back to back to back battles, battles, battles.
But
And they
here's
don't
the
have
thing.
enough
Wait, here's
time.
the thing. We're gonna go on to the music thing as well because I do want to bring that. But here's the thing. You're saying you had 15 seconds for the free rock, but I was there. There was a lot more time than that. They didn't
Oh,
like. They don't just put the cards up, say get off the stage, come on. That's at least 5 minutes in between the decision, them leaving, the new breakers coming on, and everything starting. It's minimum 5 minutes,
yeah.
which is
But in the live stream, there was a video coming up of Shigekix, and he was giving an interview, and we had to live translate. So it was like I had like let's say 20
you have to
seconds.
live translate the interview.
Yeah, we were live translating at the same
You see,
time.
but these are places where like commentators don't do that.
I know,
That's
but we
not,
did
do
it.
you know what I mean? So no, but this is what I mean when I start talking about like there's one thing that should happen is if basically if they're gonna bring commentating into breaking, it's like do it properly. No
Of course.
offense, you gotta do it properly. You can't just bring it in and be like we're gonna do this. It's like no, because why have it? It's a waste of time. And the proper thing is commentators don't live translate interviews.
I know,
They
but
don't.
I
I
was
don't
caught
know.
up.
I know you were doing it,
Yeah,
but then it's the feedback to them to say, yo, we're not supposed to do this. Now, if you want us to do this, this is fine. But then my question is, why would the breakers not say to them, yo, this isn't like what commentators do.
Yeah.
It's not what we do. So it's kind of looking at them and saying like, is there a reason? And you don't, I'm not saying like you go to them and be like, we don't do this shit.
I
You
know.
know what I
I
mean?
know.
But it's kind of saying to them like, is there a reason why we have to do this? Because we could still be commentating right now and talking about the decision. But now we can't do that because we have to live translate the interview.
Because
So
that's what's seen
why
on
is
the
it,
screen, right?
what's that?
That's what's seen on the screen. I mean, the people watching it live, they don't see that interview, I believe. I don't know if there's a big screen of Shigeki's telling like how he enjoyed that battle, but it's like the thing.
Those,
I couldn't just commentate what's on the screen, and so like I should have interrupted them my explanation of why Fleerock, for example, won, and then I already got asked to live translate at this.
because this is another thing, but you was watching the live stream. Was Sugar Kicks on the live stream being interviewed?
Yeah, it was the next
So
thing. They just left the stage, and the next thing was Shigeki's interview, and it was like, okay.
okay, so again, this is like again, but these are the things where like it's hard because you watch that and you're kind of like, well, this isn't what should be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like breaking is such a new thing. If you want to do this in 10 years, when if breaking takes off and is in the Olympics for years, do it. But no one knows who these guys are. So it's kind of like you're asking, this is the thing that kind of gets me. You're asking Sugar Kicks questions, but the audience doesn't even know who Sugar Kicks is. So why are they going to care about what he thinks about what just happened in that bout? You understand? It's like if you ask if Conor McGregor does an MMA match and afterwards you interview him, we care. If you don't know who Sugar Kicks is and you interview him afterwards, do I really want to watch this interview?
But then we have to really decide if we really just do it for the people outside of it, because he was losing as a returning champion to Fleerock at that battle, and then it was like a lot of this misconception for people, even breakers, they didn't understand why he lost, or yeah, he had lost
No,
that
that's
battle.
fine.
So,
But did they interview him about that?
I think so. Yeah, he was like, "How do you feel?" Blah blah, and yeah, they asked him some question in this kind of direction
No,
of
but
how
you
he.
see what I mean? No, but but wait, here's the difference. Because remember, I'm a journalist. Asking someone how they feel and then asking someone why do you think you lost are two separate questions.
Yeah.
If they asked him, why do you think you lost that battle? And he gave a concise explanation, then cool. But I guarantee they didn't ask him that because they wouldn't, because they don't want that controversy. They probably asked him, how do you feel?
Yeah,
Do they ask
unfortunately,
him, do they ask him, do you think Burns should win? Do you know what I mean? No, they wouldn't have asked him that.
that's true. Because
And that's what I mean.
I actually can't remember what they specifically asked, so I don't want to reframe that. But yeah, you're
But,
right. You're right. But there's something, because I also think that the people who asked the questions, I think it was
yeah,
Wicked. I don't know who was there at the live stream at the
yeah.
moment. I don't know if they have prepared stuff that they write on, or they have like, as you said, like were briefed about how to do it or do interviews. Because at the same time, it's just kind of breaker celebrities who do most of the work. Like it's still in our hands at the moment. The
And
commentary,
that's
the
the thing,
interviews.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, as someone who's, the one thing I can say is I've interviewed more breakers than I think anybody now. Like, but my
Of
list
course,
of
yeah.
breakers I've interviewed. So it's like, and it's like when you're doing these interviews, it's like no offense to anyone who does the interviews because
No, of
that's
course.
what they're there for. But I listen to these interviews and it's the same questions. How do you feel? What does it feel like to win? Do you know what I mean? And it's like these aren't questions about the battle. They're not. And if they're not quick, and again, if you watch sport, because we're trying to be a sport, right?
Hmm.
They don't bring the winning, MMA fighter. They don't go in straight in and just go, how do you feel? They say, how do you feel about this win in your career? It's your biggest win. It's your lowest win. You almost lost the second round. They add that extra thing on because it's about talking about what just happened. What just happened now? A question, how do you feel? That's any response. I don't know. I feel hungry. I feel thirsty. I feel like going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you say to Sugar Kicks like you were the returning champion, you just had a loss that looks controversial because you were doing power moves, he was doing a lot of burns.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever lost a competition like this to someone doing moves like that? Now he has to think about the competition and the battle and give you a proper answer.
Yeah.
But I know, and again, this is why I'm not like saying people should be doing this. I know the people doing the interviews aren't, you could say, trained to do that. They're not trained to sit there. But I have to, with Red Bull, what we have to do is as soon as the competition's going on, I have to interview the winners. I'm literally sitting there cross with like 10 generic questions, and then I start adding questions as the rounds go down. Okay, Auntie might win. I know this about her.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Logistics might win. I know this about her. Oh, Auntie's out. Those questions are gone. And
Yeah.
I'm literally, because afterwards we're literally told, get upstairs now. Press conference is happening. You got to ask some questions. So I do get like 5 minutes. And then during the press conference, I'm like, they're not here yet. Oh, what do I know about Victor? I need to
Mm-hmm.
ask him some specific questions. So it is on the spot. So it's kind of like, that's why the one thing that I think you need to bring up is it's called broadcast journalism, right? And people
Yeah.
study broadcast journalism. It's an actual thing that you train to do. So in reality, they should have broadcast journalists at least there saying, ask these questions, or me, or the other writer. But if you're just going to give people a mic because they're a breaker and say, ask them some questions, of course they're going to do that job because they're like, well, okay, I'll ask them how they feel.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is what I mean. It's like, this is why I think the formula needs to come from people that know. And there's one thing that I was going to suggest is like when you said the formula for even the sound, what you say during and the beginning and the end. Have you, like I'd say, every commentator can watch Red Bull BC1
Yeah. Of course.
before they go. No, but before they go, you sit down at home. And this is what someone told me. I can't remember. I was watching something, and they said this is what they have to do. Oh yeah, to be a commentator, they have to send in a tape of them commentating a basketball match. That's what they have to do. So imagine I'm going to do Red Bull BC1. My thing would be, I would ask them, how much time do I have before and in between?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
schedule? Then I'm going to sit home and watch a breaking competition, and I'm going to write a script that fits that. And I'm going to write multiple scripts. So I'm going to be like, if I've only got 2 minutes for them coming out, I'm going to write a script that fits 2 minutes. And then I'm going to rehearse that script, but that script's going to have like maybe 4 lines. In 2 minutes, I've got to say who they are, where they're from, what their style is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
long as I've got that in my head, every time someone comes out, I'm reaming through it. This is Auntie. She's from Italy. You know, she used to do rhythmic gymnastics. She used to do cheerleading. She also does wushu. You're going to see a lot of kung fu in her style. You know, she's won this, and that. There we go. And then the next person comes out. I'm going to do the same. This is logistics. She's a defending champion. If she wins this year, there's 2 times she's won. You know, she used to live in LA. She's now living in Florida. She's part of breaking MIA. She's got a lot of acrobatics, but you'll see her dance on top a lot. Dancing on top means standing up because she's a stand-up. And the more you do this, the more you're like, oh, when someone comes out, I can give you that spiel. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it in 2 minutes. And that is kind of like, it's like a Instagram clip, right? When
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
Instagram, the clip has to be 1 minute, or it used to be 30 seconds. But if you go on YouTube, they say 5 minutes. But if you've got a following, you can go up to 15 minutes. But if you ain't got a following, don't do a 20-minute clip. So you have to fit in those parameters. So I think that's like a way, like you say, to bring the language, because then your language becomes concise and you start to go, don't, I know it might seem impossible, but most people, and I've had to do it, if you say to them, you've got 100 words to say this, trained commentators can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. So, well, at least I believe that. So I remember, because I'm still kind of confident about my commentary style, I gotta be honest. But I remember you can see them in a blog I published it for 2019. You would even see, because Rajat and I, we took it very seriously. And
Yeah,
before we went to the
no
Salzburg
doubt, man. You're German.
headquarters, huh? Yeah, of course. But literally in the blog, you can see how we practice in front of old
Okay.
BC1 clips, how we did the commentary, and we
Oh,
talked
nice.
about what we're gonna do. Of course, we weren't like that precise how you did it right now. I didn't reframe or learn everything on my hand because, of course, I'm honored enough to know most of these people as well. Like I know Phil Wizard and all these dudes. So I know them on a personal level, but as well as what can they do. I mean, the more people come up, the younger people come up, I have to research on them too, or just learn the hand book, the commentators book. But yeah, that's what we really try to do, and I think that's as you said, maybe just get a training or get a proper even like qualification. It's not the right word, but just like to see, like care about the feedback of people who watch these events. Because now actually we have a lot of events that are commentary. It's the WDSF events. It was World Baseball Classic. I think it's Outbreak, Red Bull BC1, of course, um,
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. I mean, that's already 5 events.
Yeah.
Undisputed, maybe? I'm not sure. So you know, we could just also check out because let's be honest, every time you check out the commentary, the comments are always just like, "Yo, this sucks," blah blah, this sucks. Why did I talk over this round? You know, so there should be also like a sign for us or to the promoters or whatever, to think about how they could make it more crisp. Because I think the only way to get it more into the public, to make it more interesting, is I think through commentary, or if we have like a formula that promotes journalism in a more respectful manner, because otherwise it's just people throwing moves at each other and go home afterwards with trophy, you know. So I
And
think
that's the thing. It's like you said, because to get it to the public, like why are commentators famous? Like you watch sports, but
true,
commentators are actually famous. Do you know
true,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
And you're
yeah.
like, they're famous for being commentators because they're the voice that you hear when someone's coming out. They're the ones that do the interview sometimes afterwards. And you look at that and you say, but then I think the difference is those guys work on commentating. Like that's what they do.
Yeah, yeah, of
In the
course.
scene, I think, and again, I would take it. So I'm not saying don't take it. I'd take the job. You offer me the money, I'll take
Of
the
course,
job,
yeah,
even
of
though I can't.
course.
But in the scene, people take the job because they're offered it. Outside the scene, they're not commentating. And that's a
Yeah,
big difference between someone who's trying to commentate and someone who's taking it because they're offered it. And I think personally, that's the reason why it's not growing, because why are you going to work on something that you're only taking because it's offered? But if they don't offer it to you, you're like, well, cool, I'm doing my other stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it needs to be something where people are like, I want to be a commentator. And it's like, cool, well, then all the stuff that, like I said, are you training that? Are you working on your voice? Are you working on your
Oh
timing? Are
yeah,
you, are you doing all these things? Because that's what you do for breaking, right? You
I
go,
know, no.
you do your battle, you go home, you train, you work on your power, you do it because you want to win and you want to elevate, you want to get invites. But for commentating, like I'm not talking, I guarantee most people are like, I'm done for the day. Cool, I'm out. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
hopefully they call me next year. But in
I
between that
know.
time, what did so but there's a few things like going on to the music, that is one thing that I think is impossible to ever change.
I
And
know,
the
yeah.
host, the music and the host.
The host? What do you
Because
mean?
the host is talking while you guys are talking, while the music's also playing. And again, there's no other sport that exists. And that's why it boggles my mind that breaking does this. There's no other sport that exists that has a host and a commentator
Yeah,
talking
true,
at
yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. And plus, we have music. So we have, and I keep saying this to people, you cannot have 3 layers of sound. Like it's just like, it's crazy.
I
Like,
mean,
think of it.
you could say it's not, but it's such a part of the scene, like that there's the MC for us, like on the stage, you know? Of
No, but I
course we,
think that's what it should be. I think that's why the commentators shouldn't talk during the battle, because we have an MC. And the MC is low enough that the music, because the DJ controls the sound. So they're
yeah,
not going to put the MC's mic higher than the music, which
hopefully
is
not,
why
yeah.
that always works out. But with commentating, it's funny because you know the Danny Dan clip when he hit against in Paris when he hit the leg boom thing. Remember that clip?
Paris was it WDSF?
Yeah, WDSF
Yeah,
against
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, amazing
and he
round.
hit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend and she saw that battle and I think she saw it without the commentating. And she
Hmm.
was like, yo, that round was sick.
Yeah.
I sent her it with commentating and she was like, oh, it was different. I'm like, yeah, because you can't hear the music.
But
So that
see,
whole,
as far as I know, Paris was commentated by some like two people who had nothing to do with breaking at all. You know, it was a Tom who got like really
yeah,
better with it, and some other guy I don't know. But
yeah, it
I'm
was
pretty sure they
BBC
were not
guys.
breakers because
No,
you
but
know.
even still, it wouldn't matter, bro. I don't want to hear breakers talking while he hit that because the problem was you couldn't hear the music because the commentating was played over it.
Yeah, but the breakers would have like a more feeling unless you would educate the commentators, but
Come
they
on,
would have
bro.
like a
No, no,
better
no.
feeling.
We've seen enough breakers commentate to know that they wouldn't. They'd have been talking as well. They don't shut. I've heard breakers say, "I'm going to shut up now," and then they keep talking, and I'm like, "You just said you were going to shut up. Why are you still talking, bro?" They all do it.
Well, I
They
haven't
all do.
followed this
We
one
can't
yet.
use the breaking card here. They
But yeah,
all do.
you have to put your ego aside, you know, no matter what. Like I remember, like Jilu, everybody think watching this knows Jilu, like one of my best friends, my crewmate, and
Yeah,
like even not being biased or whatever, and put my ego aside because when she lost against who was it? Well, I think Mad Max, right, in 2020. I
yeah.
wasn't pissed, but I was like, I was in front of the mic and I was like, shit, nah, nah, because that's my crewmate. But I had to put that all aside and was just doing like, yeah, Gilu lost and had like a poker face in a way and stop being biased and put my ego aside because that's my crewmate. Gilu's lost and
But
had the
but
potential
wait,
to
wait,
win.
wait. No, no, no. But that's where I would say you shouldn't have done that because
Mm.
this is the thing. If you were really, if they say they done that professionally, they would have known that you two were crew. They would have known. If professionally they were like, this is No Index is commentating today, they would have known. And again, if you watch MMA, sometimes the commentators are commentating people they train and coach and are in their team. And they
Yeah,
just say they do. And when they lose, they don't keep the straight face. They're like, oh man, I real feel bad for him, but that's how it goes. But you have
true.
to acknowledge, you's not saying that. Like you can acknowledge you're in Gilu's crew. That's part of breaking. If you don't acknowledge it, then you're not telling the public what breaking's about. You can be like, that girl's in my crew. This is Gilu. She did just lose. Feel real bad for her, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's how
yeah.
breaking goes.
Of course, yeah.
You see
But
what I mean?
that was one of the years where I tried to be more educational and informational instead of the
Yeah.
entertainment fact that I had last year. Maybe I would have done it differently last year with my partner who was a sports
But
scientist.
what's the definition of educational?
Yeah, not too much with emotions when it comes to the people itself losing, but more
Yeah.
like bringing. I still try to bring the vibe and the hype when someone does an incredible round. I remember he seen something last year was just going nuts, and or like the
Yeah.
best example I
Fucking
have
hell.
was Clear goes to Shigekix because you could hear in my voice, or even when logistics win, that I know
Yeah.
personally that I was really genuinely happy for her, and yeah, so yeah,
But
it
let me
was
put it to you like this. Aren't you educating me if you're telling me Gilu's in your crew? Because you've just told me there's crews.
yeah, yeah, of
Because
course,
sometimes you educate people without knowing it. But by you saying Gilu's in my crew, because think about this, technically in BC1, it's a one-on-one. So
yeah,
unless you have two people come out from the same crew, you can never really mention these guys are in the same crew or what
of
a crew
course, yeah.
means. But
Hmm.
if Gilu's in your crew and you say it, now you can talk about crews and what it
I
means
mean,
to you
yeah, yeah. I mean,
and
I
what it means
used
to
it,
see
but I
your
was
crew
not.
member on this stage. And I know how hard she's worked. I train with her all the time. This girl has worked so hard. I'm
That
so
was
happy to see her here.
They were my words actually, but when she lost, I wasn't taking it, and it was like because I know no like
That's
regret or
when I would
whatever.
say it's even more educational because you're letting, because the thing about breaking is we need to let the public know what this means to us. Like we do at all times. Because if we don't show we care about it, then we can't expect them to care. Like it's through us that they have to care, right? So if you bring that like that thing, like when Mex won, rest in peace, Mex won. There's a clip of him when Victor won, and
Oh
when
yeah,
he won, like I think he started crying, and he
I
like was
know.
like, "Oh my god!" And he's got the mic on, he's live. But because you hear Mex One crying and talking like that, you are like, "Yo, that must be a big win for this kid." Like this guy's crying. This kid, like he's not just some kid who just won something. There's something more here, which makes then people go, "Let me find out. Is there a documentary on this kid? Why is this guy so emotional right now?"
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's kind of like I think that is educational because it makes people want to find out why that was there, and then they find out about breaking. We're just poker face, and we're just like, I'm just going to educate you. No offense, unless you're interested in breaking, you're like, well, I don't really care about this.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, but then at the same time, why wouldn't it be allowed to go backstage and ask Shigekix how he felt about this loss? You know, at the same like now we like going into controversy. I feel like if
No, no, no.
I
Remember, because I
understood you
said
correctly.
no, no, no. Remember, I'm talking about the wording. If you ask
Oh,
someone how
okay.
do they feel, that that question again. Take any sport on the planet. How do you feel? Like you could ask. You know, you see everyone every day, right? Sometimes they're like, "Hey, what's up? What's up? You good today? Yeah, I'm good today. How you
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
today?" It's just a generic question. You
Hmm.
have to add something in to make it specific to breaking. How do you feel about losing to someone that didn't have the power moves you had?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now with breaking, if you just say how do you feel, it's like, dude, that's not a question. And most people trust me, and I learned this from the other guy, Tracy, because she's been doing journalism longer than me.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like if you just ask someone how they feel, they usually don't give you an answer. They go, "Oh, I'm cool, I'm okay," because they're so used to that. You know what I mean? It's if you want to get a good answer, you got to add in something emotional, something about what happened. So that's where I was going with that. It's the language you lose.
Yeah, maybe ego was not the right word I was using, but I just yeah, but I go with an example. There was, I think it was Victor. and he was battling, and he did this one move, and I think everybody knows he was trained by Renegade as well. But Renegade did like such a weird commentary to this one move that I felt like, oh, this was one thing I would never do, you know, because then he promoted him, not promoted himself, but then you could feel that he's a coach, which is okay. But then it's like, do we have the clear parts of like he's a breaking commentator, but is he also the DJ and the coach and the mentor and
But what was
the
weird about it? I
legend,
don't
you
know.
know?
It depends what you mean was weird about it. You frozen, bro.
Again, you know this combination, and then I think Renegade said something like, "Yeah, you can thank me later, Vic," something like that. That the audience didn't get right away, I think. And I was at the same time I thought it was funny, but then I was watching if I had it like my eyes as a normal audience people, maybe I got confused or whatever. And to
But I think that's
myself,
good. But again, the reason why I think that's good is because it's part of breaking. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's part of breaking. And it's like, okay, I've watched MMA fights where one of the commentators has coached the person in the ring, and they've said while they're fighting, they learned that in training from me. Like they've said it.
mm,
So I think, and this is this, put it this way, there is no point getting dancers or people in the dance scene to commentate if you're not going to say those things. Because then why are you there? Oh, I'm an expert. I'm like, wow, you're not, well, you're an expert, but you're not really like saying anything we can't give these guys in a script or they can't learn in a week. Because you're not, we can't break down a 90. Oh, I'm an expert. I know that he hit that 90 because his hand was like this and his leg. Like, you don't do that when you commentate.
mm-hmm.
In essence, the reason to have breakers there is because we understand the culture and we're part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so we can talk in a way that makes people want to know more. An expert can't do that. An expert can't talk in a way. An expert, sorry, outside of breaking is never going to watch breaking, talk, and people will go, I want to know more about this sport because they don't even know. But Kev going, you can thank me later, Vic, make someone go, thank him about what?
Yeah, yeah,
Who
yeah.
is
Yeah, I
this
mean, you're
guy?
right. You know, it was just like a small
Google.
thing that,
Who's Kev? Who's Victor? When did they train? Oh, he's oh. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you've got to make people. We've got to make people want to know more, but we've got to do it through being breakers. We have to, or else just go get someone who doesn't. Go get those two BBC guys who were getting people's names wrong. It was terrible, that comment. It's awful. They were when someone came out. Do you know what they were saying? They were like, "Oh, they're entering the cipher."
oh
I was like,
yeah,
"What?"
yeah. I know. Or there was one funny thing where who was hosting this event? Amjad. He was saying like, "Yo, shout out to this guy who was definitely inspired by this other people who's in this round right now, and he took like a
Yeah.
move in a way it was a small bite, and then the commentator said, "Oh, an original move," when the host at the same time said, "Shout out to I don't know, Focus or something."
But this
But
is why I think it's. I'm a preparation guy. There's
yeah,
nothing stopping anyone from preparing commentating scripts. Like really. And sitting there and having and you don't prepare it like this is exactly what I'm gonna say. You prepare an outline. So you're like you
yeah.
might come in and you might say, okay, I want to be educational. I want to talk about biting. I've never done that. So you're gonna have to sit down and prepare a way that you're gonna
Oh, I
talk
did it
about
every
it.
time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I want to talk about original moves and what it means to be original. And if you watch again, MMA is a good example because it's been growing, but it's new. Joe Rogan said that when he went and sat there, he would purposely make sure he spoke about jujitsu properly. He wanted the audience to know what jujitsu is. He wanted to educate them. And a lot of people said afterwards, yo, it's because of listening to you, Joe Rogan, that I started jujitsu or I found out about jujitsu. And he was like, that was my goal. He would, they call the moves the right names. He would use the right names. He would talk about it. He would tell people what's going on because he wanted to educate people on jujitsu. So he came in with a direct thing he wanted to educate people on. Again, I would love to ask all the commentators, when you commentate, what's the one thing you're trying to tell the audience? If you got something, and not generic, oh yeah, I want them to understand breaking. I'm like, we all want them to understand breaking. What does that mean?
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
aspect of breaking did you come in today when you're commentating and say, whatever happens, by when this is over, I want everyone watching this to know what a 6-step is and a 3-step and what footwork is. I'm going to concentrate on that
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talk about it. Do you know what I mean? And this is like something that again, commentators themselves do. And I think we're missing it in the scene because people aren't like, I'm a commentator. They're like, no, I've been asked to commentate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So preparation is of course key.
The preparation. How are you going to speak about this dance when you have a microphone in your hand? It's like, a microphone set up and
Yeah.
everyone's listening to you. Like, how are you really going to translate this dance to the world? Because you are now in a position to do it. Like, you're there. It's like, it's on you. And even though we don't, I think we both agree we shouldn't talk over the music. You get to talk over the music.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
going to hear you more than the music. We're going to hear you more than the host. 6 hours. Now, 6 hours is a long time, but Ronnie, you had 6 hours to translate this dance to the audience. What did you want to do? They gave you 6 hours, full reign. Now think of it like there's a negative side that's tiring, it's too much, but there's the positive side. Someone just gave you 6 hours on the Olympic channel
yeah.
to tell the world about breaking. You had free reign. Imagine that power you now have. So then, if someone turns around and goes, "Why does the world know about breaking?" You're like, "Dude, you had 6 hours on the Olympic channel."
Yeah, so that's how I see it as well, because I think right now, since breaking is not that public, it is still, I don't know if it is the role, it's a must have, but I think it's a big role for us commentators to be educational, to make it more interesting, you know? And I see it in a way like every year I see it as an opportunity to bring more people, because I know my sister's watching it with some people, they like people who
Yeah.
never watched breaking before. Even like my older sister, my little nephew used to see it, and he was like 7, 8 years old at that time, and he understood more clearly. He walked up to me and said, "Yeah, I do footwork against you, whatever." You know, he's not even breaking. So yeah, I think people underestimate what the job of the commentary right now, how important it is actually for us to grow and make it more mainstream. If you want to do that, but at the same time, again, if you just get asked, you wouldn't say never say no. But it's in a way, it's like it is. There's a huge burden on us how to grow this culture into the mainstream as well, because yeah, it's just the thing with the music, it won't stop. So there will be never be a perfect commentary, I would say.
No, they
Focus on the
will. I think they
music and
will.
then
But what will happen? The Silverback event I sent you,
yeah.
that was perfect. And
It was a three
everyone
on
can
three,
do
right?
that.
It was. I watched the 3-on-3 of this, and even the
Yeah,
one
and
I
there was
went.
a solo as well.
Yeah, I watched that one too, and they have just had so much more time. And the actually what I really liked was you could see the commentators, and
Yes.
I think that was one of the questions. To I love Pro for One at that event,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, because he was
Shout
like
out
so
Proto.
nerdy. Yeah, shout out to Pro. He was so nerdy with it, you know. So he brought up like some facts. Like I think there was a round thrown by but who was that? Was some old school b-boy who made it to the top 32, or not old school, but like new. I think it was Lego. It was Lego. It was not old
Oh
school,
yeah.
like still a beast. And he was doing a round, and I think he mentioned Lego that he did the same round in '97 or something like that at the same channel.
Ah!
And it was Pro for One, like spitting the truth. But
But you
again,
see, you see,
and that's what makes
but
it fun.
you know the difference.
Yeah, of
Pro for
course.
One does no, but Pro for One does a podcast about podcast. I don't. It goes you live on YouTube
Yeah,
about breaking. He's constantly talking about, and he's a, like I said, he's a geek
he's a
with it.
nerd.
He
Yeah.
breaks it down. He done something where like I've done some long comments saying how breaking is like MMA, and it was like an hour. And I watched it, and I was like, "Yo!" And then I done some long comment. But that's someone trying to find different ways to translate breaking to the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I think is needed. And it's like, yo, you need. It's like if you're gonna, like you say, you got the power. You are there. You comment, you're commentating. But then it's like that question, like, how are you gonna really do this? How are you really gonna? And again, as a writer, and someone that just, the whole point of journalism is to translate this to the public.
The whole
That's
point
what I've
of
been doing for 5 years.
the whole point of using words is to translate it as clearly as possible to whatever
You
who is
know?
listening, or so it's just the power of words in a way. That's why I was really making sure that I was not using too many words to um, how to say, interrupt or confuse people. I was not using crash, patzer, whatever German word there is for like a crash. I was making sure that I would just stick to the word crash in German to make sure, or I even think I used crash and just translated it one time for the audience to understand. So I had my words, and then I could just use it and explain whenever it was possible for me, just to have the preparation right and to yeah bring this have a nice production overall, because
Now I
it's
think like
big.
obviously the German one, I didn't hear it, so
Yeah,
but
I know. Yeah, I know.